So today we're playing Anthem in 2025, a game that most people have probably forgotten about already at this point. I mean, it didn't really last that long. It was around February 2019 that the game launched, and by September, October, support was already ended for it. There was no longer any updates. So it really didn't last that long to begin with, but it had so much potential. The gameplay was actually really fun, and like they put a lot of effort into this game. It's so fun just flying around. Never mind actually doing any shooting or anything like that, but just going around in the jetpack, it just feels so satisfying. And then, yeah, the actual gunplay itself is also really good and very polished. I think what came down to it is just there wasn't enough to do in the game. And EA decided to kill it pretty quickly because they're like, well, there aren't enough people interested in the game. But when it's a live service like Anthem is, if you're not putting any content out, of course people are not going to be interested, because how many updates did they do after the game first launched? Not much, right? And the game didn't really have a whole lot of content at launch. So, yeah, naturally people are going to stop playing or just not care about playing it in the first place. You know, like, I don't understand why EA thought that it was like after all the money they put in, after everything they invested, to just kill it so quickly before it was able to reach its full potential. Because I think if they did keep updating it, there are so many examples of live service titles that at first were not successful, at first lacked a lot of content, and weren't that fun to play, honestly. But over time, they eventually became great games, like Rainbow Six Siege. Obviously, these days, people aren't too fond of Siege because the updates actually, after a certain point, went in the other direction, where it didn't become so good. But that's an example of a game that at first was not successful at all and then became very successful. No Man's Sky is probably the best example I could think of. Remember that game at launch and what it is now? Holy shit, what a difference. So my point is that Anthem could have been another example of an online game that was, took a little bit of time to get going, but after a couple of years actually ended up being a huge hit and very popular and making a shit ton of money. They're just like, fuck it, we're not gonna actually do anything with this after everything that they put into it. EA is so incompetent and dumb sometimes. I'll just say that. But despite all that, despite the game not getting any updates in over 5 years, it's actually still somewhat active. I'm not gonna say it has a whole lot of people online. It certainly doesn't help that this game does not have any crossplay, so if you had any interest in playing this with like a buddy, well, you guys have to be on the same platform, because if you're on PlayStation, they're on Xbox or PC, whatever, it doesn't work. You can't do crossplay. So everyone has to be on the same platform if y'all want to play together. And on PC, there's still some players. So yeah, I'm playing the PC version, by the way. And oh my god, is it just completely stunning. Like, maxing out all the settings, it's so beautiful. The graphics, like, this video doesn't even do it justice. Like, I have it recorded at pretty good quality, but even that, like, a recording will only show you so much. Like, you have to actually experience it yourself, and you just be like, wow. Because that was the first impression I got, was like, holy shit, this game is just so incredibly detailed, and it looks just stunning, absolutely stunning. I'm sure it looks good on PS4 and Xbox One, but it came out towards the end of those consoles' life cycle, so at that point, a lot of games were kind of just downscaling a lot, in order to be able to be released on those consoles, but on PC, they were so much better and look so much better, right? So, I mean, that's honestly trivial, though. The actual core gameplay itself is great across all platforms, and there's still a good amount of people playing on, regardless of which system that you're on, so PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and obviously, if you have a PS5 or a Series X or a Series S, you can play it through backwards compatibility, so it's accessible to people on modern machines. But the thing that is kind of annoying, though, on PC is that it never got released on Steam, so the only way that you can play it is through the EA app. And I know a lot of PC gamers that if it's not on Steam, they don't give a shit, so that alone, I think, did a lot to hurt the game on PC. And there's a reason why EA, like, not too long after Anthem came out, started releasing all their new games on Steam and not have it try to be exclusive on Origin or EA or whatever the fuck their thing is called now. But you guys probably seen in the gameplay that, yeah, I've run into players before. At least I could see players on the screen, because the thing is, it's a really big open world. So it's not really easy to just run right into players and to play with them and to find them. But they do exist. This video is proof that they do exist and they are out there. And if you want to play with people, it is possible. You can do a lot of the stuff solo, though, if you want to. Although I don't really see much value or much reason in that, because this game was meant to be played online. It was meant to be a co-op PvE experience. And playing it solo just doesn't feel right. And it's honestly not really that good. And that's the reason why I never really leveled up too much in this game, because I didn't really play it until years after it was already past its peak and nobody cared about it anymore, right? So I didn't really get to experience the full game in its entirety, but from what I've seen and from what I've also read up online, the story is not very strong in Anthem. Like, that's not going to be a reason to play it. Like, oh my god, I need to experience the story. Even though it was made by BioWare, it was really, it was very shallow, like the story content and the world building, compared to something like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, or at least the old Dragon Age and Mass Effect, not so much the modern stuff. I would definitely rather just play this than Andromeda or Veilguard, that's for sure. But yeah, just in general, if it's a game that doesn't have any content, any updates, it's a live service game, and it just has nothing going for it anymore, I'm not going to really recommend that you play it when it's practically dead. I mean, it's not dead because there's still people playing, but I wouldn't, out of all the games out there, out of all the options that you have for games to play in 2025, that this shouldn't be anywhere close to your priority, unless you're just so curious and you want to know, like, what was Anthem all about? Like, you know, if you're just really interested in it, then go ahead, sure. If you have EA Play, it's included with your subscription. If you have Game Pass Ultimate, it's also included with your subscription, so you don't even have to pay anything extra for it. But it being a live service title, it's meant to be grindy, it's meant to take up a lot of your time, so in order to experience all the content, it's going to be like a 100, 200-hour time commitment, and I just can't see anybody willing to do that, like, as a new player. As an old player, sure, it'd be fun to go back and to see what's kind of going on, because, like I said, it still is, it's small, but it's somewhat still active in 2025, so it can be fun to come back for nostalgia's sake and to play on your old character that you had in 2019. But for new players, like, absolutely fucking not. Like, I'm sure even your most hardcore Anthem person would agree with me, like, yeah, there's nothing going on here. Like, why would a new player be interested in this? Because after all, we're talking about the game in 2025, not what it was, not what it could have been, although I did kind of spend a lot of time talking about what could have been, but it's really just about how the game is currently. And that's the misconception that a lot of people get with these videos that I make, is that if I make a video saying it's not worth it, don't play it, it's not me trying to throw shade at the game or say, like, negative things about it. In the case of Anthem, I think it was actually really good and very underrated. But the fact of the matter is, the support for the game died many, many years ago, and there really isn't a whole lot of content here, and it's a grindy live service game. So all that kind of mixed together, it's like, can I really recommend this for anybody? No, I can't. So that's just where it is in 2025. Let me know in the comment section, if you were an Anthem player back in the day, just share your experiences, your favorite memories, and your overall thoughts on the game, and how you feel looking back 6 years later. And do you think if EA actually stuck with this game, could it eventually have become successful? I think it could have. The gunplay was great, the movement was great, like, everything fundamentally was very high quality. You know, it wasn't just some half-baked fucking piece of shit, you know? So I think it could have been something. It really could have, if they just had more to offer.